Blue 42. Omaha, Omaha, set, hut, hut. What's up everyone, Anthony Serratelli here, a Jersey filmmaker, and welcome to another one of my Road to Red episodes. And today I want to talk about slow motion on the Red camera and the crop factor issues you have to deal with when changing resolutions. This actually gets pretty intense because there are so many resolutions that Red cameras allow you to shoot at. For example, this Raven here, it shoots at 4.5K, 4.5K widescreen, 4K, 4K 2:1, 4K HD, 4K widescreen, 3K, 3K 2:1, 3K HD, 3K widescreen, and all the way down to the 2Ks. So you can only imagine what options you would have shooting at 8K on a Red Weapon or Epic. But no matter the camera, as you choose a lower resolution compared to the camera's max resolution, there becomes a sensor crop. And what that means is that the camera won't use the full size of the sensor, it'll crop in and use a portion of the sensor to shoot at that resolution. Why, you ask? I'm actually not sure exactly why this happens, which I should learn, but it does happen, and it happens on many cameras, not just Reds. If you want to study up, you can dive into these charts you can easily find online that draw out exactly how much field of view you have in all the resolution options. But I'm going to try to simplify it for you by filming some slow motion place kicking in honor of the 2017 NFL football season starting this weekend. So I grabbed a couple high school has-beens and went over to the local park. These guys were studs on the field back in the day. Neil was a quarterback, punt returner, and the best long snapper in the county. That's right, I said long snapper. He's definitely still got some in the tank, but his ego is a little bit bigger than his arm as you see him chuck up a couple ducks here from 50 yards out. Kevin, his older and certainly wiser brother, went the smarter route of not blowing out his arm and keeping it nice and light. However, he did struggle on the receiving end of some of Neil's punts. In high school, Kevin was a wide receiver, defensive back, and most importantly, the holder. Perfect for what I needed these clowns for that day. So I set us up to kick into the soccer net so we wouldn't have to chase the ball everywhere. I set up a second camera so you can see how the crop factor affected us. It was drizzling out with heavy rain on the way, so I threw a camera condom on, aka a garbage bag, just in case it came a little early. I shot everything on a 50mm lens at an ISO of 800 and adjusted the aperture accordingly to get a similar exposure. I started at 4.5K and 120 frames per second. Unfortunately, we didn't measure, but the camera was about 15 feet from the football. I will then proceed to switch resolutions without moving the camera as far as distance from the ball, just reframing at 2K to keep the ball in frame. So next up is 4K, also at 120 frames per second. In this case, it's not necessarily fully cropping in on the sensor. It's just eliminating some pixels on the side to create a 16:9 image instead of a more widescreen image. And don't mind Kevin being in a different place every time. We marked the ball to be consistent, so focus on that. Next is 3K at 160 frames per second, which now you can really see how it crops in on the sensor. Again, I'm at the same distance on the same lens, but my field of view has really shrunk. Finally, at 2K and 240 frames per second, you can see how far in we end up on this crop. Again, I had to reframe because I didn't center the ball to begin with like I should have. That's my bad. But nonetheless, as we zoom in here to 100% and further, you can see how we're getting more noise in the image. This is because the camera's not using as much of the sensor. Smaller sensors naturally accept less light because there's less room for the light to enter. So you'll find more and more noise, especially in the shadows, as you crop in on this and usually any other sensor. One workaround is to physically back up your camera from the subject as you switch resolutions. I did this as well to show you how it works. With the rain coming, I was a little rushed and didn't match each shot perfectly with the framing and angle. But the concept remains the same. You just need to back up to create the same field of view. But a lot of times backing up could be an issue if you're not in a wide open area like I was here. Like let's say you're shooting a scene in a New York apartment. Good luck backing up. The other workaround is to switch lenses, but now you're changing your shot composition completely. On a wider lens, your background is going to become less compressed, your depth of field and field of view are not going to match your original shot, so this is not a perfect workaround either. The perfect workaround, which ends up not being a workaround at all, is when your camera shoots up to your desired frame rate at the resolution you choose to shoot your project at. If this is the case, then no recalculations need to be done if you decide you want to capture something in slow motion to match your original composition. Let me just note that on Red cameras, sensor cropping doesn't just happen at high frame rates, it happens whenever you drop lower in resolution. I'd also like to note that the Red Raven is the only camera in the Red lineup that shoots over 60 frames per second at its max resolution. In this specific case, 120 frames at the full 4.5K. So even though it's the baby and the cheapest of the Reds, it comes with that really nice perk. Aww. So that's all for this episode. I hope that made sensor cropping a little more understandable if you were having trouble trying to grasp it. If you liked it, click the like button, subscribe, and click the little bell so you get alerts to all future episodes. If you have any comments, questions, or requests on anything you'd like me to talk about, please feel free to leave them below or contact me on any of my social medias at Jersey Filmmaker. Thanks so much for watching. Giants football, baby. I'll see you next time.